Not enough nonsense in your life? Need a little more? Well, get ready, because these two have it in spades. Loose talk.
What are you talking about? Nonsense.
Even looser opinions.
Please explain.
And you're along for the ride.
Everybody strap in!
This is The Burble with Benny and Az.
Hello, this is The Burble. It is Benny here.
And I'm the spare as.
Yes, we have a spare.
Yeah.
It is the spare as.
Just add beer in 12 years and I'll just be like the other as.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, actually, thank you very much for coming in and subbing on the podcast. Now, just quickly, right off the top of the bat, we are available at theburble.com.au. We're also available on our Spotify. You also can get us on iHeartRadio. You can find us on Apple iTunes. That's the best place to find us. You can download the podcast and subscribe. Leave a comment there as well. And we're on a whole bunch of other things, Google Podcasts around the world and all different things. Where you get good podcasts, you can find us. So thank you very much for coming, Az. I appreciate that.
Not a problem at all. Lovely to be here.
The reason that you're here for this particular podcast, as the other one said, and I quote, he's got the plague.
Yes, the plague.
He said he had the plague, and I'm not really sure what that means. So I thought what we might do is see if we can just actually get old Az on the line here and give him a bell, find out exactly what's going on. Why is he on the crook? Why is he saying he's got the plague?
Can't be calling a sickie, surely.
Well, apparently he's calling a sickie. So
he might be down at the Tats playing the pokies.
Down the Tats playing the pokies. We'll find out anyway. We'll get him here on the blower, see if we can get a hold of him. Thank you. Here he is.
Hello.
Now, what's this plague you talk of?
It's the plague, bruh, like bubonic style, you know, like shitting through the eye of a needle and coughing your lung up and shit and then having to...
Don't you just take antibiotics for that now?
Yeah, apparently.
We'll pop a few and come over.
What? Oh, jeez, no, if he's doing that, I don't want him in this studio at all. That Az.
Yeah,
I think I felt that cough through the phone.
Yeah, no.
I have to run my antivirus on my phone. Now, listen, it's...
Jeremy licking for his...
So let me just get this straight. You've you and the wife that's not a wife are both suffering this. So where did you did you not wash your hands again when you're in the public urinal?
Oh, probably not. But I don't deal with the public on a whole because I think they're wits. But it would have been some member of the public unwashed at Woolies or some shit coughing on something that I was near, I'm sure, or just general stupidity of humanity has transformed itself into a virus and made me crook.
Fair enough. So you're not going to blame your actual place of work where you earn money. You're not going to blame that.
Not at this stage. I think I infected everyone else.
Yeah, I've heard that about you.
I did the typhoon Mary thing. I see what you did there.
So we just wanted to confirm because you sound fine to us.
Right.
You sound perfectly fine. So I think this is just a bit of a put on, to be perfectly honest.
You need one of those coughs right about now. That'll get you out of trouble.
Yeah, I don't have another one.
Till you go out and have a cigarette.
Yeah. The little sound generator I've got's run out of batteries, so that's the end of that.
Righto. So we're going to keep you here just for the moment because we are going to start with what's coming up on the podcast because we'd love to know what you think about this stuff, Az, okay?
All right, I'm down.
There's a report where a 24-year-old woman named Shelby has come out and said that Mr. Men books apparently are sexist.
Right. Of course she has.
Yeah, no,
so she's little miss.
She's
confused and grumpy bitch.
She's studying at university, and I'll give you two guesses. I think two's fair. Two guesses what she's studying.
Two guesses are fair.
Would it be a BA, so a Bachelor of Attendance, and or feminism as a major?
Well, no.
We'll accept feminism. It's women's studies. Is that
Women's
close enough?
studies.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mr. Men books are accused of being sexist because Mr. Clever mansplains to Little Miss Curious.
Is that Little Miss Bi-Curious?
Also, as well as there's a disease going around at the moment which is turning deer.
Yeah, no, I've got it.
Yeah, no, let me finish. It's turning deer into zombies, and they're attacking anything.
Oh dear.
Underrated.
Yeah, you knew I was going to do that.
I reckon that's a video game that's on the way. Zombie
the deer apocalypse.
The deer apocalypse, because they've got stupid games. Like you seen that goat simulator?
I'm sure Disney's already put a tender in to turn that into a franchise.
Probably. A mum.
Yeah, Bambi's mum, the return.
A mum would rather miss rent than cut back on her 9-year-old kid's drag queen outfits that she's buying.
Okay.
So stuff rent. A farmer with a lot of ingenuity has painted his dog like a tiger to scare away invading monkeys from his crop over in India.
See? That's ingenuity.
Russian farmers are trialling VR goggles on cows to calm them down to get more milk.
Why are cows stressed?
Mate, anyone's stressed. If you live in Russia, you'd be stressed, wouldn't you?
Don't have a cow about living in Russia.
The VR isn't there to calm them down. It's like the indoctrination tapes, like on Clockwork Orange.
Someone's keep leaving bundles of £2,000 bundles around some village in England. I don't know what's going on there.
I know.
Is that the same dude that dropped all the 50s in the Bong Bong River?
No, that was down in Dapto, you idiot.
So we might have to get on a plane to check this village out.
The Simpsons may be coming to an end.
Oh, no.
Yes, The Simpsons may be coming to an end.
Probably.
They've been on life support for the last,
10 years.
Seasons. Yeah. It's probably time to, take on Giller at the back and shoot us.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that we also are going to be discussing tonight is Smith's Crisps, the favourites here in Australia. You've got your 4 central flavours. You've got cheese and onion. You've got salt and vinegar. 5, barbecue, chicken, and then your plain ones. But they've been mucking around. The evil geniuses down there at Smith's have said, how about we bring out all these different flavours? There was one that's supposed to taste like Pizza Hut. There was one that's supposed to taste like Wicked Wings from KFC.
Didn't they have a palmy one recently?
They had a palmy one as well.
Didn't they do like lamb and mint as well?
Yes, they did.
And there was a mac and cheese one which was quite good.
Okay, they've brought out
basically the same as the cheese.
I'm drawing the line at their new creation. We're going to be talking about.
What have they got?
I'm not going to reveal. That's later on in the podcast. If you were here, you'd know what's happening.
You're now going to have to listen to it like everyone else.
Chip on your shoulder, Benny.
Hey,
it really does. Sounds like you've got a chip on your shoulder.
Jeez, you've got a ton of them. Now, you know about this one. A man from Maine in the United States has accidentally killed himself after he set off his own homemade booby trap.
Yeah, how good's that?
Yeah, it's great.
Selection. I reckon he's a shoo-in for the Darwin Awards this year. I don't know the whole specifics of it, but really, what more do you need? It's America. He's got landmines and claymores and shit, and he came home drunk after drinking with the good old boys and accidentally forgot to not arm the alarm.
Home Alone 4 took a really violent turn.
Yeah, it did. Now, finally, there's outcry in Japan after a department store has suggested staff wear menstruation badges. So customers know that particular person that's helping them in the store is on the block. It's all coming up on the Burble. Any final words from you plague-ridden ya?
Stay strong, stay stupid, world.
This is the Burble with Benny and Az.
I need to crack this before I get into this story because this really gives me the right royal shits. And let's face it, any other bloody story on this podcast really does give me the shits and it's completely nonsense ads, but let's dive into it. A PhD student's hit out at Mr. Men books. Now, you remember Mr. Men books.
Yes.
How could you not love the Mr. Men books?
Oh, they were great.
When you were a kid, there was a Mr. Men for everything. Like there was Mr. Clumsy, Mr. Forgetful, I think there was Mr. Bumper. He's always wrapped in bandages. Like he's a mummy bite away from, becoming terrifying to kids, all that kind of thing. Then there's Little Miss Sunshine and all that kind of stuff. Innocent books. A whole price-to-own library of Mr. Men books. And I think we had them all. We just got them and they were cheap and, they entertained you for about 14 seconds before you wanted to go outside. Remember going outside and playing?
I do. I'm probably one of the last generations of children that actually remember outside.
A PhD student's hit out at Mr. Men books because a female character was unable to grasp the simple concept of the fourth bridge. This is what they're saying. Shelby Judge, she's 24 years old. We talked about her in the intro. She's read a conversation between Mr. Clever and Little Miss Curious in where he sighs when Little Miss Curious struggles to understand. Now, she's studied women's studies for a master's and said that he should be renamed Mr. Mansplain. Now, in the book that she found at a gift shop, Mr. Clever tells Miss Curious that the bridge is named after the river that runs underneath it. She asks what happened to the river first, river second, and river... Hang on a minute, this sounds like Abbott and Costello. Who's on first, what's on second, don't know who's on third. So her reaction was to say, ugh, when she read the conclusion of the story, Mr. Clever's side, it was going to be a long day. This shit has gone too far. If we're now going into Mr. Men books, I'm sorry, this is going too far.
Absolutely. Like this women's studies master's student is saying that the character should be named Mr. Mansplain for explaining something, being a man, explaining things to a woman.
Mansplaining.
Mansplaining. And basically saying that the Mr. Men books reinforce a stereotype that girls are stupid and it's a man's job to explain things to them, which, I honestly think you're reading way too far into these books.
Way too far into it.
I do love the fact that she hasn't gone down the line and sort of picked up, Mr. Clumsy or someone like that, and it's a man falling over, hurting himself, and isn't jumping up and down that the books are portraying men as being clumsy idiots that hurt themselves all the time.
Well, what she's saying is that it's an antiquated gender role. Well, of course it's antiquated because it's old. But the thing is, she says the joke's not so obvious, though, because it's meant to be a funny joke, and then it's always at the expense of women. It's a punching down. Hang on.
It's rubbish. If you read any of the other books, it's always the stereotype that you paint on the Mr. or Mrs. character, and then the adventures that follow suit. So Mr. Grumpy's always grumpy, and Mr. Happy's always happy.
Yeah.
And
are you going to say that he can't be grumpy anymore? Look at how many. It's 50 years of Oscar living in a garbage can on Sesame Street, and he has never once, ever changed his attitude whatsoever. Has he?
No.
You want to know why?
Because he lives in a garbage can.
Because he lives in a garbage can, and it works for Oscar. The world's shitting on him, so he's going to shit back on the world, and he's allowed to do that.
Yeah. He's, life's dealt him his lemons, and he's making grumpy lemonade.
Exactly right. Not that you would want to drink it or anything like that. Or it could just be the real estate prices in New York, and there was the whole thing where you can't get gas in the States in the 70s. He's got reasons to be angry. Reaganomics in the 80s.
You'd have to think with the Muppets staying in Sesame Street, there's got to be some sort of rent control there. So I think Oscar's doing all right.
Yeah. Now, but on Sesame Street, though, let me just also point out, on Sesame Street, they made a lot of changes. Like, they had Abby, the character Abby, come in, and she's got ADHD, and, she's just bouncing off the walls. And in one episode, I think it was one of the male cast characters had to mansplain to another character that she's got ADHD, and she's jumping all around. Then they were talking about having another character that had AIDS, a Muppet with AIDS.
That's a...
You think Oscar would be up there, people walking past, chucking syringes into the can. They've come down to the quiet part of the city just to inject, just to get on, chuck the syringes in there. He's got plenty of reasons to be pissed off, right? Are they going to introduce other things into these Mr. Men books to make it fair? Do you know what I mean?
She's saying they should be introducing Mr. Mansplain as a satirical element to the series, and I think she's missing the point. I can see on the surface why she's jumping up and down, but you're picking the wrong avenue to go down. These stories are just supposed to be innocent children's stories. People old enough to actually have their lifestyle altered and devised by these things aren't reading Mr. Men books. This is just an innocent children's story.
Well, the story it actually came out of, I don't know if you know, but the story it came out of is actually a book called Mr. Men in Scotland. And on the front page of this book, there's little Miss Curious wearing Highland dancing socks and shoes, okay? But no pants. She's got pants. None of them are wearing pants. Remember that? Oh, you probably don't, but Fat Cat got cancelled on Australian television because he wasn't wearing any pants.
Humphrey B. Bear?
Humphrey's a pimp. I'll tell you why. Humphrey's a pimp because he's a pimp in a boater hat. Yeah. Not many people can pull off the hat, but Humphrey does.
He always had a real attractive bird on his arm.
Yeah.
Humphrey. So, pimp might be right.
Humphrey's great, though, because, I liken Humphrey to most pairs of, female exercise tights. And I'll tell you why, because mumble pants. Because he doesn't say a word. The lips are flapping, but nothing's coming out. Anyway, I like Humphrey. They need to bring Humphrey back.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see the Humphrey murder mysteries on 9. Something like that. Or Humphrey goes out and helps homeless people, gives them money and then steals their bedding or some shit. Just
the dark side of Humphrey B. Bear.
Free. They do. free. All right. So anyway, getting back to this Mr. Man book, all right? So she's saying by its very definition, it's microaggression. Some might say, why are you making a big deal of this? But she says that it's an example of these tiny things that build up to create a patchwork quilt of sexist iconography that every child